Good morning, guys, and welcome back to my channel. So, this is part 4. Oh god. Part 4 of me talking for an hour. This has all been one run, so my throat's starting to feel it. And I'm not used to talking for an hour. I'm usually pretty quiet. So yeah, either way, this, I think, mainly just goes over the background. And I don't know how long this video is going to be, but I'm going to go over a few things. So, fire is a bit of a unique thing, because you're not shading. You're taking away graphite. So you're just creating this huge highlight is what you're doing. And like, even if you were to say like, oh, but there's different tones. Right, but you're not dealing with different tones when you're creating with light, right? Like fire is just imminent energy. Or it's just a thing that's emitting energy, which in itself is just creating brightness. Because you don't want to put shadows within fire, in my opinion. Again, it's a light source. So it'd be like putting a shadow in the sun, right? If you were to look at the sun, which I don't recommend, but you know, you're going to see that it's different colors a little bit, right? Like you might get like a hint of like yellow among white or something, or like maybe even a little bit of red, especially if it's like, not cast shadow, but if there's like a bunch of smog around, like living in a temperate rainforest, right? Like we get forest fires every summer, and all the smoke comes down and it blocks out the sun, and that sun looks beet red, like it looks like a giant red moon. It's fucking scary, but like it's still a light source. So I would never add tones within a light source. It's just, or at least never tried to. And sometimes you get like the shading that kind of overtakes a little bit. Like if you didn't shade it properly, or if I didn't shade it properly, sorry, and I wanted to make it like a pitch white, and I just can't because the graphite's just locked in there, locked within the paper. Like then that, I'll live with. I don't care, but I'm not going to actively go out of my way to create tones. So generally what I would do in this situation, because again, it is taking away graphite and I want to make it as bright as possible, is I would go around with like a line sketch, like you probably saw in either the first or second video. And I ended up making sure to border off where I wanted the fire to be. And then I would add my shading around the fire, right? Now I know right off the bat that the shadows that I've just added and the smoke, that's going to be intermingled with the fire, right? Or in my mind, it's okay to have a little bit of that crossing over, because then it gives it a glowing effect. You don't want it to be a harsh, especially if it's in the midground, where it is in this drawing. If it's in the midground, you don't want it to be a harsh transition. You can argue that when you're sitting at a campfire, that you can see a harsh transition between the object behind the fire and the fire itself, right? But if you're at a distance, fire is just a glowing entity, right? And it's a glowing thing that's just emitting light. And at that point, I'm not going to be too concerned about the details of this fire. Whatever happened with the fire that I've just drawn, I don't care. As long as I know I'm getting as much pristine white in it at the center of it as possible. I think that's the thing to consider, is like the source of the fire. You want that to be as pristine white as possible, or I guess pristine brightness. So yeah, it's a little bit different if you're dealing with color, because fire's got different colors, but still I just wouldn't, if you're doing a grayscale, you want it to be as bright as possible within it, because it is a light source, and that way you can also see the fire as well. I mean, I admit the dragon's breath, that didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. It's so gray. But the fire in the cabin turned out pretty good. I thought that the cross members within the cabin would get in the way, but I did it right for once. So, or at least my version of drawing fire right. Because I think at this point in the drawing, I'm coming up to the background. If not, I'm well into the background and working on something else, like the little details. I wanted to make sure that the background was separated from the rest of the drawing, because if I were to add, like, I don't know, I'm still looking at it and seeing, like, it just looks weird because it doesn't accurately represent the light source. Like, that fire maybe shouldn't, you know, be acting the light source for the castle, because I don't know, to me it looks a little bit too far away. But the sun, for sure, like, especially on the top of the castle, like, come on, Mitch, figure your shit out. But yeah, so either way, but like, I know if I did it this way, where I've turned the castle into this silhouette of towers, that would effectively pull it back from the rest of the drawing. Like, you can still see the castle within the smoke, so that's like a detail that I wanted to make sure was a thing. Like, this smoke isn't like overtaking the castle and it's blending all together. The prime example of what I meant by, adding too much detail in the background, and I'm glad I didn't add too much detail to this, is the dragon, because that dragon has no correspondence to anything else around it, right? If I were to add so much detail as the characters have detail, right, like giving it like the individual scales and the facial features that it wanted, like the little eyes and stuff, I could have pulled that dragon right up front, and it would have looked like a tiny dragon, right? That may have been that barbarian's pet. But since I left it the same as the background, where I created a silhouette, right? Now that I'm looking at it, I should have colored in those freaking claws. Stupid. But I never did that. So, but since I did make it the same as the castle and the hill that the castle's sitting on and the trees, it pulls all that stuff together, right? The midground and the foreground, right? You can clearly see that they're all different because of the way I went about them, right? With the foreground, you want the most amount of detail. With the midground, you want to have a little bit of detail. And then the background, not as much detail. And ultimately, you can section off those things, right? And make life so much easier for yourself. Because if I were to try and make the midground bleed into the foreground, I would have drove myself nuts. Because then with each of those blades of grass, the closer ones that were further down that hill would have to get more individually, or have to get more detail than the ones in the back. I'm glad I did it the way that I did it. So I don't know if I've started this process yet in the drawing, but I went around and made sure that I was adding in the details that I needed to. For example, in the smoke, where the billowing smoke of the cabin, I made sure to add like little speckles of like ashes that were flying up from the smoke. And the same thing with the castle. I made sure to add like embers or sort of like particles flying up from the castle. But I really like how that turned out. It made the castle look like it was burning instead of it just smoldering with smoke. And then on top of that, I made sure to come back to the rock and give it little speckles that it needed. So like, it's always a good idea to, even when you think you're done your drawing, like after once you're done the shading, to go back and do all the little details that you may have forgotten about. Like, just double check, right? Because you can always add stuff to your drawing. And you have to know when to call it quits. But if you don't go back and double check your drawing to make sure that you added in a key feature to it, right, that could really bring something to life into it, like that could hinder it for sure. But you'll also not form that habit, which isn't ideal. And you want to form good habits. Like, go back and double check. Oh, so when it comes to smoke, which I'm not going to clump together, as this is also a way to draw clouds. I mean, you could use it to help draw your clouds, but there's so much more to clouds than just this. So the way I go about it is I'll take like a HB wooden pencil. I think I was using like a Artist Loft pencil. You'll see I'll switch out of the mechanical, and I just created myself like a nice little dark spot of where I wanted the smoke to generally go. And then I took my blending stump and I blended as much of it as I could. So, and now I just have this basic blob, and it doesn't look like smoke. So the next process, or the next step in the process, is you take a kneaded eraser, and I don't know if you can use it, or I don't know if you can do this with a white eraser, but you might be able to get away with a pink eraser. But what you do is you take the kneaded eraser, you create like a bit of a point on it, like a little blunt point, and you plop it down on the page, and you twist, just a subtle twist, and it gently picks up a little bit of that graphite, right? You don't want to like just slam it down and then just grind your eraser into it. Like, you just want it to gently press in, little twist, and you'll get a knack for it after doing it for a little bit. And you know, it picks up a little bit, and you have like a little lighter splotch on your darker splotch. Like, you just do this a few more times around that, and it creates like a nice little smoke effect. And you know, you can always blend it out afterwards too if you've taken out too much, because your blending stump, it likes to pick up graphite, right? So you can literally redo the whole thing if you wanted to. That's what I love about it so much, is like, just because you fuck it up, it's not the end of the world. You can just redo it. But like I said, clouds are a bit different, because with clouds you have so many different variations of them. Like with storm clouds, it's not too bad. And with, I don't know, like the main thing to keep in mind when you're dealing with clouds is contrast. Generally clouds are white, right? So you want your sky to be slightly darker. But when you have like a dark sky, right, that means everything else in your drawing has to be darker. So you really have to keep that in mind, right? Because if you have a regular white cloud, right, it's not pristine white. It's a bit of a muddy white, slightly muddy. But it's, no matter what, it's going to be lighter than your sky. If the sun is, you know, behind that cloud, on the edge closest, like wherever that sun is, on that edge of the cloud, whatever is closest to the sun, that's going to be pristine white. That's going to be glistening, like blinding white. And you can go outside and just take a look at it for yourself. Like, I really encourage, like, if you really want to learn how to draw something, go out, take a photo of it, you know, figure it out. You can use Google if you want, but I think it works best with like scenery, because you learn to appreciate the scenery that's around you. I mean, I wouldn't suggest that with people. I mean, you can use Google for that, or just go down to your local Walmart or Tim Hortons, wherever you are, and just hang out there and like, just, you know, take note of like the oddball that walks into the joint. So, because those guys have it made, man. I remember I went to Tim Hortons yesterday, and a dude was missing an eye. I'm talking to my brother, like, he's the way that it's situated. Right, my brother and I sitting at this Tim Hortons, and we're sitting at this booth, and behind my brother is this dude who's missing an eye, and I'm trying to focus so hard on what my brother's trying to tell me, and all I could think is like, this dude's seen some shit. like I've heard of some pretty horrendous stories of some, you know, just people, right? But I knew that guy, he would have been right up there. Like, it wasn't he had an eye patch on. It was like his eye had been sutured up and then covered with Scotch tape. Like, it was fucked up. So, but yeah, either way, like, I don't know. Like, it's just people like that where you like take notice. And those people, you start taking notice, just make a mental note, right? And like, learn from that. I'm not saying like go up and just like, wait, hold on, and like just stop them in the middle of whatever they're doing and then just snap a photo of them and run away. Don't ever do that. But just like take a quick mental note to yourself, like, this guy's very unique. I want to incorporate that somehow into the artwork. Because it's like I said, like, in real life, like that's where you see some shit. Like you're not gonna pull up a magazine and see, like, you know, I don't know, whoever at this point is like the rundown, washed up actor, and they just have like this angry expression, like, don't take photos of me, you know, which I completely understand. Like, having paparazzi in your face all the time would suck dick. But like, you're not going to get an experience of life. You're just going to get a photo of an upset person. Yeah. I'm trying to think of something else, but no, like, if you really want to, like, learn to appreciate and learn how to draw stuff, like, go outside, um, take photos of landscapes, right? Like, that's a great way to figure out a setting for your art. Or even like learning how to draw. Trying to think of like a universal place that pretty much everywhere has, but like a grassland, right? Like learning how to draw rolling hills, right? You go, you take a photo of it, learn how to draw clouds. You go, you take a photo of it, and see and study the little details that you don't necessarily pick up on. Go for a walk or go for a hike, wherever you are, and just take in and look for the things that you don't usually look for. You'll be surprised on what you find. I know when I did that, I really got into scenery. Like, it really showed me a new appreciation, mainly with sunsets, as well as, well, like for me, I got a lot of mountains over here. So, every day, sure, you'd see the same mountain every day driving home from work, but it always was cast in a different light. Like, the mountain never looked the same. It had like the same contours, but that was it. So, but yeah, I think I'm gonna cut her there because I don't really know what else to talk about this. I could talk on how I came up with the grand idea of how to put a mount or a castle on top of a hill. Such a enthusiastic topic right there. So, I will say right off the bat that this the hill that castle's sitting on, that was the hardest part of that drawing. That, yeah, hands down. It wasn't trying to draw a half-assed dragon. It wasn't trying to, come up with a story. It was this extremely impossible hill. Like, I don't even think other people can draw it. No. So, sorry, that was stupid. So yeah, I think I'm gonna cut it there. Again, I'm so happy about this, and thank you guys so much for watching it. Like, this is the last video of this series. I don't know what the next drawing is gonna be. I mean, this one, it was just like a blob of this dude's chest. It wasn't even actually like the chest itself. It was, well, I guess, yeah, it was a full torso. You guys watch the damn video. So, if you made it this far. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Yeah, so if you guys could like, subscribe, comment, whatever that drill is supposed to be, I'll get it down eventually. Yeah, take care.